Yo, welcome back. And if you are new here, subscribe right now because what I am about to tell you is not something any other channel has the guts to say out loud. Chief Keef. Shot 6 times in the face. Atto block. On life support. That was the story that broke the internet in January 2026. Fans were devastated. The whole rap world stopped. And within hours, it was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, every single blog was running the same headline. But here is what nobody told you. Here is what every major outlet conveniently left out of their little fact-check articles. Before that rumor even hit Twitter, before the first post even went live, sources close to a block say that Quando Rondo's name was already being mentioned in connection to Chief Keef's safety. Not after the rumor. Before it. Let that sit for a second. Because this is not just a fake news story that accidentally went viral. This is not some random troll who cooked up a lie for clout. The people closest to this situation are saying that those rumors had a source. Those rumors had a purpose. And that purpose had a name attached to it. The same name that was standing next to the shooter the night King Von was killed. Quando Rondo. We have the timeline. We have the sources. And today we are exposing every single piece of it. Stay locked in. Alright, so let us start from the very beginning, because if you do not understand the foundation of this story, you will not be able to fully appreciate how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. And trust me when I tell you, this rabbit hole goes deeper than anything we have covered on this channel before. It is January 2026. Chicago is already on edge. The Chief Keef and NBA Youngboy Rooms collaboration has just dropped, and the reaction from O-Block and OTF has been nothing short of explosive. Members of both camps have been online expressing their frustration, their anger, their genuine sense of betrayal that Sosa would link up with someone from the opposing side of a beef that cost them one of their closest brothers. The wound from King Von's death has never fully healed. It never will. And every single time something happens that feels connected to that night in Atlanta, every time a name surfaces, every time an affiliation is questioned, that wound gets ripped open all over again. So the climate in January 2026 is already hot, already emotional, already primed for exactly the kind of chaos that is about to unfold. And then the tweet dropped. It appeared on X, formerly Twitter, from an account that had been active for only a few weeks. No verified badge. No history of breaking real news. Just a profile picture, a username, and one single post that read, and I want you to read these exact words carefully. Just got word that Chief Keef was shot 6 times in the face at O-Block while filming a music video. He is currently on life support. Pray for Sosa. That is it. No sources cited. No follow-up information. No video. No photo. Just those words sitting on a screen. And within 11 minutes, we clocked this, 11 minutes, that post had over 40,000 impressions. Within an hour it had been screenshot and reposted across every major rap blog on Instagram. Within 3 hours, Chief Keef's name was the #1 trending topic in the Chicago metropolitan area. Fans were flooding his comment sections. Old interviews were being reposted with crying emojis. People who had not thought about Chief Keef in years were suddenly sending prayers and condolences. The internet was in full panic mode. Now here is where we need to slow down. Because while the rest of the world was reacting, while fans were devastated and blogs were chasing clicks, a very small group of people who are deeply connected to the Chicago street scene were doing something completely different. They were not panicking. They were not posting crying emojis. They were making phone calls. Quiet, deliberate, specific phone calls to specific people asking one very specific question. Who started this? And what those phone calls revealed, what came back through the channels of people who actually have ears on the ground in Chicago, is what makes this story something entirely different from a simple viral hoax. Because according to multiple sources who spoke to us directly, sources who we are protecting for reasons that should be obvious, the account that posted that original tweet was not random. It was not some bored teenager looking for retweets. The account, sources say, was traced back to a burner, a device specifically purchased and used for the purpose of that single post. One post. And then silence. The account went completely dormant immediately after the rumor spread. Think about that. Who creates an account, posts one explosive claim about one of the most famous rappers in Chicago history, watches it go viral, and then immediately goes dark. That is not a troll. That is not a clout chaser. That is someone executing a plan. But the plan for what exactly? What is the purpose of spreading a fake story about Chief Keef being shot at O'Block? What does anyone gain from that? And this is where the story takes its first major turn. Because when you look at the timing, when you look at what was happening in the days immediately before that tweet dropped, a very uncomfortable picture starts to form. 48 hours before that tweet went live, Chief Keef had reportedly been in private conversations with members connected to O'Block. Not public conversations. Not social media interactions. Private. And the subject of those conversations, according to a source with direct knowledge, was the room's collaboration. Specifically, Chief Keef was allegedly attempting to explain his decision to work with NBA YoungBoy, to provide context, to bridge a gap that had been forming publicly. Now we do not know exactly what was said in those conversations. But what we do know, what our source told us explicitly, is that not everyone on the O'Block side received that outreach warmly. There were members who felt that Chief Keef reaching out was genuine. And there were members who felt something else entirely. Who felt that the collab with YoungBoy was not just a music decision but a signal. A declaration of where Sosa's loyalties actually stood. And when those private conversations reportedly reached the ears of people outside of O'Block, people who had been monitoring the situation very closely, people who had a vested interest in making sure that any reconciliation between Chief Keef and O'Block never happened. That is when things allegedly started moving. Sources say that within 24 hours of those private conversations taking place, there were discussions happening in a completely different circle about how to disrupt things. About how to create chaos. About how to make O'Block believe that they were under threat, specifically from the Chief Keef side, so that any chance of that bridge being built would be burned before the first plank was ever laid. And the name that keeps coming up in those discussions, the name that multiple sources have now independently connected to the conversation about disrupting the Chief Keef and O'Block situation, is Quando Rondo. Now before we go any further, I want to be absolutely clear about something. We are not saying Quando Rondo personally sat down and typed that tweet. We are not making that direct claim. What we are saying, what our sources are saying, is that the energy, the motive, and the network behind that burner account all point in a very specific direction. And that direction leads back to the same camp that has had an invested interest in keeping Chicago divided ever since the night of November 6, 2020. Because think about it from a strategic standpoint. If you are Quando Rondo, if you are someone whose name will forever be connected to King Von's death, if you know that Chief Keef, one of the most respected figures in Chicago drill history, is quietly trying to reconnect with O'Block, what is the one thing you absolutely cannot allow to happen? You cannot allow that reconnection. Because if Chief Keef and O'Block find common ground, if Sosa publicly aligns himself with King Von's people, the narrative shifts completely. The story stops being about a music beef and starts being about accountability. And accountability is the one thing that Quando Rondo's camp has been running from ever since Atlanta. So a fake shooting rumor gets planted. A burner account posts one tweet. The internet explodes. O'Block members are flooded with messages asking if it is true. The emotional temperature spikes. Whatever private conversations were happening get completely drowned out by the noise of the viral moment. Mission accomplished. Because what happened next, the way O'Block responded, the way the truth started unraveling, and the way Quando Rondo's name surfaced in a way that nobody was expecting, is where the story goes from disturbing to absolutely explosive. Chief Keef shooting rumor was not random. That a burner account was used. That the timing connected directly to private conversations happening between Chief Keef and people close to O'Block. And that Quando Rondo's name was being whispered in connection to all of it before the rumor even went fully viral. Now let us talk about what happened after the rumor broke. Because the reaction from O'Block was not what most people expected. And understanding that reaction is the key to understanding everything else that follows. When the fake shooting story first started spreading, the initial response from O'Block members publicly was silence. Which sounds strange. Because O'Block is not a crew known for staying quiet when something explosive drops. These are people who respond, who speak, who make their feelings known in real time on social media. But for the first 2 to 3 hours after that tweet went viral, nothing. No posts. No responses. No reposts of the rumor. Just silence. And our source tells us exactly why. Because within minutes of the rumor dropping, certain O-Block members were already on the phone with people who had intel. People who were telling them, do not react publicly yet. Do not give this story oxygen. Something is off about this. The story is fake, but the reason it exists is real, and we need to find out who is behind it before we say anything. That level of discipline, that ability to stay quiet in the middle of what looked like a crisis, is not something you see often in the social media era. But it tells you everything about the mentality of the people involved. They were not reacting. They were investigating. And what they found during those quiet hours, what started coming back through the network of people who monitor these situations, was deeply alarming. According to our source, the burner account that posted the original tweet was accessed from a device that had previously been connected to a Wi-Fi network in the Atlanta metropolitan area. Now we want to be careful here because digital forensics at this level is not a perfect science, and we are not claiming this as courtroom evidence. But Atlanta, the city where King Von was killed, the city where Quando Rondo was based at the time of that incident, the city that has been the geographical center of this entire conflict since 2020. That detail did not go unnoticed. And then a second piece of information came in that turned the temperature up even further. One of the people who had seen the original tweet before it went viral, someone who had actually interacted with the account in its earliest moments, came forward and said that the account had sent them a direct message, a DM. Before posting the Chief Keef story publicly, whoever was running that account had privately messaged this person and said, and these are the reported words, "Watch what happens to O-Block next." Watch what happens to O-Block next. Not watch what happens to Chief Keef. Not watch this story about Sosa. Watch what happens to O-Block. As if the Chief Keef shooting rumor was not the actual target. As if O-Block was the target. As if the goal was never really about Chief Keef at all. It was about triggering O-Block into a reaction that would benefit someone else. When that DM was shared within the O-Block circle, when those words got back to the people who had been quietly investigating, the energy shifted completely. Because now it was not just a fake news story. Now it was a message. A threat wrapped inside a rumor. And the people who received that message understood it for exactly what it was. This was a move. A calculated, deliberate move designed to destabilize O-Block at a moment when they were already emotionally raw from the Chief Keef and Youngboy collab drama. Designed to make them paranoid. Designed to make them reactive. Designed to fracture whatever internal conversations were happening about how to respond to everything publicly. And that is when Big Mike stepped forward. Now Big Mike, who had already been vocal about Lul Tim's clout chasing in the weeks prior, did something that nobody expected. Instead of going online and responding to the Chief Keef rumor directly, he went on a live and said something that redirected the entire narrative. He looked into the camera and said, "We are paraphrasing here, but this is very close to his actual words." He said that the Chief Keef shooting story was planted. That it was fake. That everybody already knows it is fake. But what people need to be asking is not whether it is fake. What people need to be asking is who wanted O-Block to see that story. Who wanted us to react. Who needed us distracted right now and why. Fans watching that live were stunned. Because Big Mike was not just debunking a rumor. He was publicly accusing someone of running a psychological operation against O-Block. He was saying, on camera, in real time, that there was an architect behind this chaos. And then he said something that made the comment section absolutely explode. He said, and again this is a close paraphrase, he said, "The last time somebody tried to set up a situation to catch us off guard, King Von ended up dead in Atlanta. And the people behind that situation have never stopped moving. They just changed their methods." The comments went crazy. Thousands of people flooding in within seconds. Because everyone watching understood exactly who Big Mike was referring to without him ever saying a name. The implication was crystal clear. The connection was being drawn openly and publicly between the fake Chief Keef shooting rumor and the network of people responsible for what happened to King Von. And then, because this story absolutely refuses to stay in one lane, Quando Rondo's own social media activity during this exact window became a talking point. Because while all of this was happening, while O'Block was investigating and Big Mike was going live and the internet was melting down, Quando Rondo was posting. Actively posting. Stories, reposts, regular content. Acting completely unbothered. Acting like a man who had no idea what was happening. Or, as people online were quick to point out, acting like a man who knew exactly what was happening and had already decided how he was going to play it. Because here is the thing about Quando Rondo's posting pattern during this period that our source flagged as significant. He was not posting about the Chief Keef rumor. He was not commenting on it. He was not reacting to it at all publicly. But he was online. Consistently online. Which means he saw it. Which means he knew. And his choice to stay completely silent on a story that was dominating the entire rap internet, while simultaneously posting unrelated content, struck people who study these situations very carefully as a very specific kind of tell. Innocent people react. Guilty people perform normalcy. And Quando Rondo's performance of normalcy during the most chaotic 48 hours the Chicago rap scene had seen in months was, to the people watching closely, anything but normal. Now just when it seemed like the situation could not get any more layered, any more complex, any more explosive, a third player entered the picture. Someone who had been completely silent up until this point. Someone whose silence had been so loud that people had started asking questions about it on their own. Lul Tim. And what Lul Tim did next, the move he made in the middle of all of this chaos, is what takes this story from a conspiracy theory into something that feels terrifyingly, uncomfortably real. We are at the point now where the pieces are all on the table. The fake shooting rumor. The burner account traced to Atlanta. The DM that said watch what happens to O'Block next. Big Mike's live where he connected the dots publicly. Quando Rondo's suspicious silence wrapped in a performance of normalcy. And now, entering the picture at the exact worst possible moment, Lul Tim. Let us talk about what Lul Tim did. And let us talk about the timing of it. Because the timing is everything. Approximately 36 hours after the Chief Keef shooting rumor first went viral, while the investigation was still happening, while O'Block was still quietly piecing things together, while Big Mike's live was still being shared and discussed across every platform, Lul Tim got on Instagram Live. Now we already know about Lul Tim's previous IG Live moment where he mocked O'Block members for being upset about the Chief Keef and Youngboy collab. We already covered that. We already talked about how he told them to stop crying and get money. We know that clip went viral. We know how O'Block responded. But this live, the one that happened in the middle of the shooting rumor chaos, was different. This was not Lul Tim being casually disrespectful. This was not him throwing a casual jab and logging off. This live had a very specific energy, a very specific tone. And the people watching it in real time, the people who screen recorded it before it disappeared, described it as something that made them deeply, deeply uncomfortable. Because on this live, Lul Tim was not talking about music. He was not talking about the Chief Keef and Youngboy collab. He was not even directly addressing O'Block by name. What he was doing was laughing. Consistently, almost continuously laughing. At nothing in particular. Just laughing. And making vague statements that individually could mean anything but together, in the context of everything that was happening, painted a picture that sources say sent chills through people who saw it. At one point in the live he said, and this is a direct quote from multiple people who watched it, he said, "Chicago stay on go. Somebody always catching something. That is just how it go. Somebody always catching something." In the context of a fake shooting rumor about Chief Keef being shot at O'Block that had just terrorized the entire rap internet, those words landed like a grenade. Comments flooded in immediately. People were asking him directly, "Are you talking about the Chief Keef situation? Do you know something?" And Lul Tim just kept laughing. Never confirmed. Never denied. Just smiled and laughed and let the implications sit there breathing. Now a more charitable reading of that moment is that Lul Tim was being opportunistic. That he saw the chaos, saw the opening to insert himself, and took it the way he always takes any opportunity to stay relevant in a scene that he knows only acknowledges him because of one specific terrible night. That reading is possible. But our sources, specifically one source who is directly connected to someone in Lul Tim's orbit, say that the reality is more troubling than simple opportunism. Because this source told us that in the days leading up to the shooting rumor going viral, Lul Tim had been in contact with Quando Rondo's camp. Not unusual in itself, they have a long-standing connection. But the specific timing of those communications, according to this source, overlapped directly with the window in which the burner account was being set up and the fake story was being prepared. We want to be clear, we are not saying Lul Tim created the account. We are not saying he wrote the tweet. What our source is saying, and what we are reporting as exactly that, a source's account, is that Lul Tim knew that the information about what was being planned reached him before it reached the public, and that his laughing, vague, chaotic live in the middle of the situation was not random. It was a performance of his own, designed to add noise, designed to make Oblak's head spin in as many directions as possible simultaneously. And when you combine that with everything else, the burner account, the Atlanta connection, the DM about Oblak, Quando Rondo's suspicious normalcy, you start to see the shape of something that is much larger than a viral hoax. You start to see a coordinated disruption campaign, targeted specifically at Oblak, executed at a moment of maximum emotional vulnerability, designed by people who have been studying Oblak's reactions since 2020 and know exactly which buttons to push and when. Now here is the twist that nobody saw coming. The development that happened in the final 24 hours of this situation that completely reframed everything. Chief Keef spoke. Not through his manager. Not through a PR statement. Sosa himself broke his silence on the situation. And what he said, the specific words he chose, the specific people he acknowledged, told a story that was louder than anything his manager had said during the entire rumor cycle. In a brief post that has since been screenshot and shared thousands of times, Chief Keef wrote, and this is as close to verbatim as we can confirm, he wrote, "Somebody really tried to use my name to start something. I know who. They know I know. Leave Oblak out of it. Leave Oblak out of it." Chief Keef, the man whose recent collab had Oblak members publicly upset, the man whose music decision had fractured feelings across Chicago, was now publicly, explicitly defending Oblak, was drawing a line, was telling whoever was behind the rumor that he sees them and he is not going to be used as a weapon against people he has history with. That post hit the internet like a shockwave. Because in one sentence Chief Keef had done multiple things simultaneously. He had confirmed that the rumor was a setup, not just fake news but a deliberate attempt to start something. He had signaled that he knows who is responsible. He had publicly aligned himself with Oblak in a way that his music collab had seemingly put in question. And he had sent a message to whoever was behind it that the plan had not worked. Oblak members responded to the post immediately. Big Mike reposted it. Other members acknowledged it. The energy shifted in a way that nobody who had been watching this situation unfold from the beginning could have predicted. Because the intended result, fracturing Chief Keef and Oblak, triggering chaos, keeping old wounds infected, had completely backfired. And somewhere in Atlanta, sources say, Quando Rondo went very, very quiet. Not the performance of normalcy quiet from before. A different kind of quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when a plan falls apart and you need to think about your next move very carefully. And Lul Tim? The laughing stopped. The live sessions stopped. The casual, unbothered energy disappeared overnight. His accounts went quiet in a way that, for a man who had been posting constantly for weeks, was impossible to ignore. The streets noticed. Oblak noticed. And the entire Chicago rap internet, which had been watching this situation with a combination of grief and fury and disbelief, noticed too. Because this was not just about a fake shooting story anymore. This was about a pattern. A pattern that started on November 6, 2020 in Atlanta, Georgia, and has never stopped. A pattern of using chaos, confusion, and emotional manipulation to keep certain people destabilized, certain truths buried, and certain people protected. Chief Keef saw it. Oblak sees it. And now, because you just watched this entire video, you see it too. The question is what happens next. Because if history has taught us anything about this situation, it is that when a plan this calculated fails this publicly, the people behind it do not stop. They regroup. They adjust. They wait for the next moment of vulnerability, and they try again. Oblak knows that. Chief Keef knows that. And the streets of Chicago, which have been carrying the weight of this story since 2020, are watching and waiting to see what form the next chapter takes. Alright y'all, and that is where this story stands right now in real time. And I want you to take a moment before you scroll away, because everything we just laid out for you is not just entertainment. It is a timeline. It is a pattern. And it is a warning about how information gets weaponized in the age of social media to manipulate real people with real grief into doing things that only benefit the people pulling the strings from a distance. Chief Keef's name was used as a weapon. Oblak's pain was used as a trigger. And the people allegedly behind it have been running this same playbook since the night they were standing in that Atlanta parking lot. Now I want to hear from you. Because this community is smart, and I know you have opinions, and I want every single one of them in the comments right now. Do you believe the Chief Keef shooting rumor was a planted story? Do you think Quando Rondo and Lul Tim had a role in creating that chaos? Or do you think this is all coincidence, bad timing, random trolls, and a community that is too quick to connect dots that are not actually there? And what about Chief Keef's post, "Leave Oblak out of it"? Do you think Sosa genuinely knows who is behind this? And if he does, what do you think he is going to do about it? Drop your answers below. I read every single comment on this channel, and this conversation needs to happen. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are the only channel covering stories at this level of depth. Hit the like button if this video opened your eyes to something. Share it with somebody who needs to see this. We will see you in the next one. And trust me, this story is far from over.